Hi guys, welcome back. Today I'll be watching and review this video by Channel News Asia, which is what does retirement with 2,000 a month in Singapore look like? Now we're all curious about other people's life, correct? And Channel News Asia has curated these three families, which I think are good diverse background and something we can all learn with. So with that, I'll be sharing with you my insights. I'll try to keep it light-hearted and let's roll in the video together.
Retirement is the last chance to enjoy life.
Kita happy dengan masa kita, dengan cucu, dengan anak-anak.
Marketing together.
Window shopping.
Okay, let's pause it right there. Indeed, retirement is really the last chance to enjoy life. But you shouldn't just enjoy only in retirement. Along the way, do get experiences because we are not too sure how healthy we will be in terms of retirement. And also the other family, they've also mentioned that now they are spending a lot of time with their kids and grandchildren. And just to share with you a little bit in terms of Singapore's context, if you are a young couple, you're thinking, hey, children are so costly. This video, I'm sure, is going to expand a lot on that topic. Do start a family. It's not just the cost itself. And if you are, a married couple ready to start a family but unable to, do also note that government right now has a lot of co-payment schemes, especially from the National Day rally in 2019. So with that, a lot of families can get a lot of aid to get IVF treatments to really start their own family. So these are some things that I can share.
My mom was someone I took for granted for the longest time in my life.
Hello.
Until 3 years ago when she was critically ill. And the thought of losing her suddenly came upon me. So that motivated me to quit my job and spend more time with her.
Now, I think there's a great sharing coming from Mr. Patrick Lee, who obviously had to retire prematurely to take care of his mother. Now, I think that's a great act of love. Myself, I come from a family whereby my dad is a handicap. I do know there's a lot of sacrifices and a lot of things that is not easy, especially for a caregiver. And also very often, the one that has no kids, not married, tends to be the one that takes on the leading role in this caregiving. So I think that is great. His mom should be very thankful of it. And with that, let's move on to the next segment, whereby it touches a little bit more on the numbers, on how they actually survive with 1,000 to 2,000 a month.
I always wanted to see the world, but when my wife and I were working, we were too busy. Siberia is one of the places that we wanted to go, and after my retirement, we went for a 30-day trip. We went from Beijing to Lake Baikal, and then we took train to Moscow, and then to St. Petersburg. So that was really unique.
Okay, I had to interrupt Mr. Phua there because there's just a lot of bragging. He's just showing us where he's traveled across the world. We are also envious. We can't leave our jobs to go and travel for 1 month, 2 months kind of thing. So let's cut that portion short. But Mr. Phua has generously shared that his expenses per month is about 2,000 only, and that already included his traveling. So traveling need not be very expensive. It depends on what kind of lodging you stay, as well as what you spend when you travel. So Mr. Phua is traveling a lot, but he's still not spending that much. 2,000 a month as of current moment still is a number that can allow a retiree to travel.
I used to work in the airport firefighter about 38 years.
We spend roughly around 2,000 plus. For me, that 1,000 is okay. But for women, they need more clothing and more toiletries than men.
Okay, so up next is Mr. and Mrs. Amin, and what they've generously shared is they spend about 2,000 a month in combined. Now, he claims that she spends the bulk of it, so I don't know how true is that. But also 2,000 a month for a couple, I think they are very frugal. And towards the later part of the video, we'll discover also that they downgraded. So if a smaller house, the expenses are much lesser and stuff, something we can KIV. So then let's move on to the third person, which is Mr. Patrick Lee again.
Before the travel restriction, I was also traveling every alternate month. My two favorite places are Phuket and Da Nang, because I love the sea.
Okay, 1,200 per month, and there's also still traveling expenses factored in. Of course, traveling is to Thailand, which is possibly a bit cheaper. But Mr. Patrick Lee, if he's using 1,200 a month and he still can travel, I think that really gives us quite a lot of sensing as to it doesn't need to be a big retirement per month budget kind of thing. 1,000 for Mr. and Mrs. Amin each, 1,200 for Mr. Patrick, and 2,000 for Mr. Phua. Okay, so in this coming segment, let's try to uncover how they actually derive what they need in terms of expenses from their various income sources.
Just two of us living together without our children. I downsized my 5-room flat to my 3-room flat. Advantage is that easy to maintain.
I earn about 300 over 1,000 from downgrading. Right now, I'm getting 1,200 for my pension,
and I got 700 plus from my part-time job.
Now let me pause it there. Mr. and Mrs. Amin is actually downgraded, and with that downgrade, they have netted 300,000. I think downgrade is a real possibility, especially when we all become older. My own parents-in-law, they downgraded, and with that, there's quite a lot of savings per month-wise. So from what we learned from Mr. and Mrs. Amin, the sale of flat proceeds, I mean, why is it coined as sale of flats proceeds? Is there no rate of return from it? It's not like dividend income or something income. So my guess is maybe he's keeping it in terms of cash. And just let me expand the topic by showing you some options. If you invest via ABF, Singapore Bond Fund, which is an ETF that is a low risk one, or you invest in the United SGD fund itself, there are actually diversified bond funds out there that can give you 2% rate of return. It's not impossible. So if a 300,000 net sales, hopefully is invested in something with 2% rate of return, that is like 500 per month already. So I think that's something for him to consider if he hasn't done so. Mr. Amin is also on a pension. And what I understand, speaking with so many families, some pensioners' design of CPF is very different. I don't have real details on it, but in the older generation, there are a lot of pensioners, so they are on different parts. That's why you're not seeing that he's getting a CPF life payout kind of thing. He's on a pension, so it's very different. And last but not least, he's also working part-time. I've suggested in previous video that I do advocate for everyone to have some part-time employment for as long as possible. Treat it like semi-retirement, which is a concept I'm trying to pioneer. So okay, if you are keen to understand semi-retirement, I'll leave links towards the end of the video and leave links at the bottom for you to follow on with more tutorials.
Right. When I became financially woke, I realized that you can actually generate passive income that is consistent, that can free me from work.
Sounds very familiar, like some advert from commercial property or e-commerce.
One of the key factors in which I was able to retire was because I had these funds with fixed deposit. I was getting about 2% a year. And then I thought that money could work harder for you. And so I met with an investment manager at the bank, and he advised me to put money in the unit trust. I rented a room for $930 a month when I turned 65 with CPF life payout, which is for life. I'm getting a monthly income of about $300, which is quite enough with the rent plus the dividends from my investment.
Okay, let's pause it right there. What we learned from Mr. Patrick Lee is he has these three income sources. Room rental income, which requires him to give out some privacy, and there's also some active work that requires him to find a tenant or at least engage an agent that he can trust. There's CPF Life, which derives for him $300 per month. Now that seems like he's on the basic retirement sum. Maybe he can consider topping up to the CPF Life itself, so that hopefully he can get a bigger amount that is consistent and really guaranteed in that sense. Then he also has unit trust dividends, so hopefully that continues to perform for him. And with that, let's move on to a third person, which is back to Mr. Phua.
My retirement fund is made up of CPF savings, my cash savings, my investment, and also I have my house as my asset. My CPF, I would be able to get about 2K per month. Even I have 3 kids, I no need to depend on them.
Okay, let me rewind a bit and pull back up his summary. As what we can see, CPF Life already pays him $2,000 a month. That means he's probably on enhanced retirement sum, and that's already guaranteed. And his expenses, he mentioned, is only $2,000, which means he has surplus. Mr. Phua, And what we can see also, cash savings, investment, house as asset. He is not disclosing to us how much they are deriving, so maybe it's a really big amount. Because he'd be saying like, oh, 100 per month from investments. No, it's just coined as cash savings, investments, and house as asset. So that's something that I picked up sharing with you. But also the good part is he has also worked himself to financial freedom. He doesn't depend on his 3 children. Right now there's so much talk that Singaporeans, a lot are in sandwich generation. So he as a dad, he's financially free. He's not a burden to his kids. I think that's something we can learn from.
When I was young, I started saving already. At that time, we have CPF saving of employee 25%, employer 25%. I was able to save $200. So for that $1,000 paycheck, my saving is already $700.
So Mr. Phua in his early days has saved up 70% of his income. Take note of that, fantastic. I think he's someone that's financially very savvy and financially very prudent all along. So that's why he's staying in a big house right now, right?
florist, pastor for about 12 years, after which I went into retail sales for more than 20 years. For all these jobs, I get paid about 2,500 to 3,000. Before 5 years ago, planning was a word that never came into my vocabulary at all. I used to think that since I'm single, no one is dependent on me. My advice was spend as you earn. In my younger days, you're drawn to brands. In those moments when I was a bit euphoric, I just went to the shop and spent. If I had been financially prudent, I would be in a much better position now because I have squandered away so much money.
What we learned now from Mr. Patrick Lee is he actually earned an average salary kind of a range. So while he earned that amount, he was single, he didn't have a lot of pressure from dependents, and he actually squandered a lot of his savings. So right now, if you're in a similar position, do take note. This is a good lesson to pick up. Hey, maybe it's time to relook at finances. Do your finances better because one day maybe you need to take care of your parents or there are some changes in circumstance. Don't squander away the money. I think that's something that Mr. Patrick Lee is sharing with all of us right now.
I couldn't save a lot of money for my retirement age because education at the time was quite expensive. I have 4 children. Whatever salary I receive, just enough for me to survive, me with my family.
My memories of my parents were they working very hard most of the time. Back then when I was young, I don't really understand why. But now that I'm a parent, I understand that it's to support the 4 of us.
Perasaan macam emotional. Abang quite tough for me at that time to raise 4 of you. So that's why I sacrifice my time. I work hard to achieve their success. I see all my children, and they have education, they have degrees, and they're married and they have a good job. I feel satisfied.
Now I actually edited a lot on this last portion because I want to give Mr. and Mrs. Amin the longest period in this review itself. I thought about it hard. I think his story is one that is very inspiring. You know, Mr. Amin, he probably didn't earn a lot. I think there are a lot of Singaporeans out there that earn average income or lower, and that he's brought up 4 children. 4 children. He didn't have a lot of savings. It didn't stop him from, you know, doing his job as a father. I think that's something that's really inspiring. So if you don't have a high income, and yet you still bring up a family, it can be done. Right now, it looks like there's no end to the journey, but Mr. Amin right now is sharing a very good story. I think his children are very grateful for his contribution, for his sacrifice this year, and I think we should all give him a thumbs up. So with that, I run to my conclusion of this video. The stories that Mr. Phua, Mr. Amin, and Mr. Patrick are all very inspiring. So hopefully, it's benefited you in some way or another. These stories are something we should all carry with us to become financially better. So with that, if you like this video, smash on like. I'll be sharing more on retirement planning along the way. So do smash on subscribe also and stay tuned for that. With that, I'll sign off. Take care and goodbye.